Imagine like your bank just fitting in your pocket, right? Getting loans that are tailored to, your spending habits, and an AI as your financial advisor. Sounds kind of like sci-fi, doesn't it?
Closer than you think.
Yeah, welcome to our deep dive into the world of Fintech as a Service.
FaaS.
FaaS, yeah, exactly.
You've sent over a really interesting collection of articles about this. Everything from its history and its impact, even to predictions about where FaaS is headed in the future. We're talking potentially a revolution in how we bank, invest, even get insurance, right?
It's not just about transferring money between friends anymore.
Right.
We're going to unpack how FaaS is shaking up the entire financial industry.
Yeah.
And what it means for everyone listening, even if you're not,
even if you're not a Wall Street, hot shot. Exactly. Whether you're, prepping for a big meeting on fintech or just kind of curious about all the buzz, we've got you covered. Let's break down this complex world in a way that, hopefully makes sense.
Okay. So one of the things I found really interesting, one of the articles traces fintech, way back, further back than I thought it would go. It mentions Morse code.
It does.
You.
It's true. Even before telephones, that people were finding ways to speed up financial transactions. The telegraph, Morse code, these were revolutionary in their time. It enabled, much faster communication and therefore, faster money transfers.
So instead of waiting for weeks for a letter of credit to arrive, by carrier pigeon, you could send a message in minutes.
Precisely. Each new wave of technology brought about huge shifts for the financial world. Take the internet, for example. I mean, online banking was a total game changer, right? Letting you manage your money from home. But the real explosion in fintech, that started with,
Smartphones.
Because
suddenly banking wasn't tied to a physical location anymore, right?
Right.
You could check your balance, make payments, even apply for loans, all from anywhere.
Convenience at your fingertips.
Exactly.
That's what it's all about.
So convenient.
And that's where FaaS really takes center stage, right? Imagine a small startup. They have a brilliant idea for some new financial app, right?
Yeah.
In the past, they would have needed massive investments to build their own secure payment systems.
From the ground up.
Yeah, from scratch.
Yeah.
We're talking years of development, security protocols, the whole 9 yards.
It's enough to make you give up before you even start.
Yeah, absolutely. But with FaaS, it's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
They can essentially rent these pre-built financial tools from these platforms. I mean, you've heard of Stripe, Square.
Yeah.
Need payment processing, loan origination software. It's all there,
Yeah.
It's available.
It's like the difference between painstakingly, building your own website from scratch versus using a user-friendly platform like Squarespace or something.
Exactly. Right. It lowers the barrier to entry.
And it makes innovation possible, for everyone, for the little guy.
Yeah.
For the little guy. And that's why, a lot of experts think that we're, about to see this huge explosion of creativity in, the financial world.
Okay.
Thanks to FaaS.
So it's not just about big banks anymore. This is about empowering, individuals and smaller companies to get in on the action. But I'm sure some of our listeners, they're hearing us talk about making all these financial tools more accessible. And they're probably thinking
sure,
what about the risks?
Of course. Yeah.
Well,
you're right to be thinking about that. While FaaS has, incredible potential, it's not without its challenges. And we'll dive into those right after this. Yeah, when you think about how much of our financial lives are moving online, security's got to be a major concern.
Absolutely.
Right. And then there's this whole other world of regulations trying to keep up with this rapidly evolving landscape.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Security and regulations, those are two of the biggest hurdles for the fintech world. And they're intertwined,
Yeah.
As more and more of our, sensitive data is digitized, the stakes get higher, the rules of the game, they got to adapt.
Right. So it's this constant dance almost between, the innovators who are kind of pushing the boundaries and then the regulators who are, trying to make sure that everything's, stable and protects consumers.
You got it. That's a really good way to put it. You've got fintech companies that are constantly pushing the envelope and regulators are right there trying to make sure that there's a balance.
Right.
It's necessary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, without those guardrails in place, it could be,
It's a free-for-all.
a free-for-all
Yeah.
with some, potentially really unpredictable consequences for everybody.
It'd be like the Wild West of finance, right?
Exactly.
Like just tumbleweeds blowing through. But but seriously, those concerns about like handing over our financial lives to an app are understandable.
They are.
Even with the regulations in place.
Of course. Anytime you're dealing with, sensitive data online, there's always going to be some inherent risk.
Yeah.
Right. However, I mean, you also have to keep in mind that fintech companies, they're also at the forefront of cybersecurity, right? They're investing really, really heavily in all the latest technologies. We're talking encryption, real-time fraud detection.
Because, I mean, their entire business model hinges on trust.
Exactly.
Right. Like one data breach could be devastating.
Absolutely. Devastating. So they're incentivized to stay one step ahead, right?
Right.
They got to keep ahead of the bad guys. But, I think beyond even like the security and the regulations, what really excites me about FaaS is how it's being used to make a real difference, like a real positive impact in the world through financial inclusion.
Yeah. We touched on accessibility earlier, but this is about like, reaching those who've been left behind by traditional banking systems.
Exactly.
Like whether it's people in developing countries who don't have access or even just, folks who can't meet those like minimum balance requirements.
Exactly. So fintech is breaking down those barriers. Think about like, mobile banking, right?
Right.
In a lot of places, smartphones are more common than bank accounts.
That's wild.
Yeah. Through these apps, people can access, basic financial services no matter where they live.
It's like that article we were talking about M-Pesa in Kenya.
Yeah.
They like revolutionized their financial system.
They did.
By allowing people to just send and receive money through their phones.
Exactly. It's a fantastic example. And it's bigger than just like, basic transactions.
Right.
We're talking microloans, which can be life-changing
for
small business owners, for people in developing countries. These are becoming much, much more attainable thanks to FaaS.
Wow.
We're talking about empowering people to like build businesses, improve their lives, all through their phone.
That's incredible. It goes way beyond just, like you said, just making banking more convenient for those of us who are lucky enough to already have, easy access.
Right.
But while we're on the topic of the future, like what's next? What can we expect to see in the world of FaaS in the coming years?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Fasten your seatbelts. The next decade is going to be a wild ride.
Okay.
Okay, so we're talking biometrics becoming the norm. Open banking is going to give you so much control over your financial data. And then we got the rise of these super apps that basically do everything.
Whoa. Okay, slow down. Let's break some of those down.
Okay.
So biometrics for security. That means instead of me having to like remember a million different passwords, I could just use like my fingerprint or my face.
Exactly.
To access my accounts.
More secure and incredibly convenient.
Okay.
Then you've got open banking, which could be a total game changer when it comes to, getting really, really personalized financial services. Imagine having complete control over your data.
Yeah.
Your financial data, right? And you can share it with third-party providers who can then give you like really, really tailored advice and products.
That sounds empowering, but it also sounds a little scary. What if I like accidentally share my data with like a shady company or something?
Yeah, and that's why, consumer education and having really, really robust regulations is going to be like more critical than ever.
Yeah.
But imagine a world where you can just like effortlessly shop around for the best financial products, all tailored to like your specific needs and your goals.
Okay, now that's a future I can get behind.
Right.
That sounds great. But what about like the human element in all this?
Yeah.
Like are we just going to be interacting with like AI advisors and chatbots instead of real people?
That's the question a lot of people are asking, and it's a good one.
Yeah.
And while AI is undoubtedly going to play, a much, much larger role in fintech, I don't see human advisors going away anytime soon.
Because sometimes you just need to like talk to a real person. Right?
Exactly. Especially when we're talking about something as personal and often as emotional as finances.
Yeah.
Technology is a powerful tool, but it can't replace, that human connection entirely.
Yeah.
I think the future is going to be about finding that sweet spot, finding that right balance.
Like using technology to enhance and empower, not necessarily replace.
Exactly.
Okay. But before we get too caught up in all the possibilities, right? Let's circle back to those challenges that we were talking about before. Not every shiny new fintech app is going to be a game changer.
Oh, absolutely not. And some might even pose risks, right, to your privacy, to your financial well-being if you're not careful.
Right.
It is so crucial to approach fintech with a healthy dose of skepticism, of critical thinking.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Don't just hand over your life savings to the first robo-advisor that promises to make you a millionaire overnight.
Exactly. Read those reviews, understand the potential downsides as well as, all the great upsides.
Gotcha. Speaking of things that might sound a little too good to be true, one of the articles mentioned this company, Fintech Farm.
Yeah.
And they seem to be doing some really interesting things in the FaaS space.
Yeah.
But their approach almost sounds a little, idealistic.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. Fintech Farm is a fascinating case study, and that's actually a really good word for it, idealistic. They're really on this mission to reimagine banking as a relationship, not just a transaction.
Which is, that's a pretty radical concept these days, don't you think?
It is. They're tapping into something that a lot of those traditional big banks have struggled with, which is that genuine human connection. Let's face it.
It's not there.
Nobody really gets excited about talking to their bank.
No.
It's usually a chore. Sometimes it's even a source of anxiety and stress.
Oh, right.
So Fintech Farm is trying to change that, right? They're focusing on transparency, personalized service, and really, really building a community around their brand. It's less about algorithms and more about, building trust.
Okay, so Fintech Farm, they're all about relationships.
They are.
But let's talk about another big player in the FaaS game. Artificial intelligence, AI.
Yes.
It seems like AI is popping up everywhere these days, from self-driving cars to, personalized movie recommendations.
AI is having a moment. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
It really is. It's having a profound impact on a lot of industries.
Yeah.
And finance is no exception. And when you really think about it, finance is, at its core, it's all about data, right? It's about transactions. It's about market trends, risk assessments. And what does AI thrive on? Data.
Yeah.
So it's like a match made in heaven, or maybe,
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not.
Depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
So the more data that we feed these AI systems, does that mean that they get smarter at managing our money?
Essentially, yeah. AI algorithms can analyze massive, massive data sets way, way faster, more efficiently than any human possibly could.
Right.
Which means that they're able to identify patterns, predict market movements, assess creditworthiness with incredible accuracy.
Okay.
It's really impressive stuff.
It's impressive, but part of me can't help but feel a little uneasy.
Yeah.
Are we handing over the keys to the financial kingdom to robots?
That is the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? It really is.
Right.
AI has the potential to revolutionize finance.
Yeah.
Make it more efficient, more personalized, more accessible, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But we also have to be very, very cautious, right?
Yeah.
We got to be mindful of potential biases, make sure that the development is responsible, that the implementation is responsible as well.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we choose to use it.
100%.
And we need to make sure that it's a force for good.
Yes.
In the financial world.
I agree.
Okay. On to another hot topic in the world of fintech that's been hard to ignore. Digital currencies.
Oh, yeah.
Crypto. The rise of cryptocurrencies has been a roller coaster, I feel like, over the past decade.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's been a wild ride. Bitcoin going from this niche experiment to a household name.
And crashing back down to earth a few times.
A few times along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cryptocurrencies, they're volatile.
They are volatile.
But they've captured the imaginations of millions of people.
Absolutely.
Right. And kind of challenged us to rethink our traditional notions of money.
They really have.
Because for the first time, we have a currency that exists entirely outside of traditional financial institutions.
Exactly. They're decentralized, which means they're not controlled by, governments or banks,
Right.
which makes them really, really attractive to people who, maybe distrust traditional systems or who live in countries with unstable economies.
But that also makes them inherently risky.
Of course,
Oh, yeah.
of course. I mean, their value can fluctuate dramatically,
Yeah.
and there's always the potential for fraud, right?
Yeah,
However,
yeah.
the technology that underpins cryptocurrencies, this thing called blockchain, has the potential to revolutionize so much more than just, how we exchange money.
Yeah, we keep hearing that term, blockchain. And it's being touted as the solution for everything, like supply chain management, voting systems.
It really is, and for good reason. I mean, it's a really secure way to track and verify information. It's transparent, it's virtually tamper-proof.
So how does this all tie back into Fintech as a Service?
So many fintech companies are looking at this. They're exploring how to integrate blockchain into their platforms.
Okay.
So we might see blockchain-based payment systems that are faster, cheaper, and more secure than our traditional methods.
That sounds promising.
It does, but it's still early.
Yeah.
I mean, blockchain it's complicated. There are definitely challenges that still need to be worked out before it really becomes mainstream.
So we might not be paying for our morning coffee with Bitcoin just yet.
Not quite yet.
But it sounds like blockchain is here to stay.
I think so. I think it's going to be a major, major player in the future of fintech.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So speaking of the future of fintech, there's one more prediction that I found in here that I thought was really, really intriguing. And that's this whole rise of decentralized finance, DeFi.
Yeah.
It sounds both really exciting and also a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So DeFi basically refers to a financial system that operates on a decentralized network, usually using blockchain technology. And the whole goal here is to create a more open, transparent, and accessible financial system that's not controlled by any single entity.
So it's kind of like the original vision behind cryptocurrencies.
Exactly.
But applied to like the entire financial system.
Got it. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. DeFi proponents, they envision this world where people can borrow, lend, trade, invest, do all the things without the need for banks or other intermediaries.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a big one. And while it's still early days, it's still very much in its early stages, but it has the potential to really disrupt the financial industry.
DeFi. That's going on my list of fintech terms to impress my friends at parties.
There you go.
I love it.
It's a good one. You got embedded finance, super apps, decentralized finance.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It seems like the future of fintech is going to be about convenience, accessibility, and probably a healthy dose of disruption along the way as well.
Yeah. It sounds like the next decade is going to bring just a ton of change.
Absolutely.
And innovation in the financial services industry.
Absolutely.
Which is exciting, but also,
and challenging.
And challenging.
There are going to be opportunities and challenges that come along with it.
As always.
Right.
As always. But as we navigate all of that, it's important to remember that, fintech isn't just something that's happening to us.
Yeah.
It's something that we're all shaping.
It's a good point.
Whether we realize it or not, every decision that we make, impacts it.
We're not just like passive consumers. We have a say in how this technology shapes our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by staying informed, by staying engaged, we can actually help steer fintech in a direction that benefits everyone. I love that. Okay. So for all of our listeners who are out there, diligently taking notes, I know we've covered a lot of ground today. But before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to kind of distill all this information down into a few key takeaways.
Okay.
What do you think? Where should we start?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's easy to get lost in the weeds when you're talking about something as complex as fintech, as FaaS.
Okay. Takeaway number 1. Fintech is more than just a buzzword.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental shift in how we interact with money.
100%. And it's impacting, everything. From how we make our everyday purchases to how we're investing our savings.
Takeaway number 2, Fintech as a Service is democratizing access to these financial tools, right?
Yeah.
Empowering businesses of all sizes to innovate, to compete.
Exactly. We're seeing this new wave of companies that are challenging the status quo, offering consumers more choice, more flexibility than ever before.
Takeaway number 3, while fintech has the potential to create a more inclusive financial system,
which is really exciting.
we do need to be mindful of the risks and the challenges as well.
You can't forget about that.
Right.
Yeah. It's crucial to be thoughtful about how we're using this technology. Advocate for responsible development.
Takeaway number 4, artificial intelligence is only going to play a larger role in fintech. So it's essential that we start thinking now about the ethical implications of that.
Yeah. I mean, AI is a tool. It's a very powerful tool, but it's not a silver bullet. We need to make sure it's used for good and that we have the right safeguards in place.
Takeaway number 5. The future of fintech is all about convenience, personalization, and a seamless user experience.
100%. I mean, consumers they're demanding more from their financial service providers, and fintech companies are listening. They're responding.
Okay. And last but not least, takeaway number 6. The fintech revolution is still in its early stages.
It is. We're just getting started.
We are just getting started.
The next decade, man.
The next decade is going to be wild. It's going to be huge.
So much change, so much innovation in the financial services industry. And it's up to all of us to stay informed, stay engaged, and be involved in shaping what that future looks like.
I completely agree.
Now, for our listeners who, after this deep dive, are eager to learn even more about Fintech as a Service.
And who wouldn't be?
We have compiled a list of resources. We've got articles, books, podcasts, you name it, that you can explore at your own pace. You can find those links in the show notes for this episode.
Think of it as your fintech starter kit.
Exactly. And if you have any questions or want to continue the conversation,
we are always happy to hear from you. You can find us on Twitter.
Or drop us a line through our website.
Yeah, we love hearing from our listeners.
We do. Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought. Remember Fintech Farm?
Oh, yeah.
The company we were talking about earlier that's trying to, reimagine banking as a relationship?
Yeah.
They're on a mission to make banking more human.
It's a good mission. It is.
Oh, yeah.
And in a world that's becoming increasingly automated and impersonal, that's a mission worth supporting.
Hear, hear.
So the next time you're feeling frustrated with your bank or just overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of the financial world, just remember that there are companies out there that are trying to do things differently.
Yeah. Companies that are putting people first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Companies like Fintech Farm.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe someday soon, banking won't feel like such a chore.
One can only hope. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Fintech as a Service. Until next time.
Stay curious.
You know, it's funny. It's like even back in the days of Morse code, people were already searching for ways to make finance more efficient, more accessible.
It's true.
Makes you wonder what those early innovators would think of the fintech landscape today.
Right. It speaks to this this really fundamental human desire, right? To connect, to exchange value, to build a better future. And fintech is really just the latest expression of that very, very old desire, made possible by, the technology of our time.
And just like those pioneers of financial technology couldn't have foreseen the world that we live in today.
Right.
We can only imagine what the future holds for fintech.
Exactly.
So for you, after all this, after this deep dive into FaaS, what's the one question, the one big lingering thought that you're left pondering?
For me, it really boils down to this. Will fintech ultimately empower individuals?
Yeah.
Or will it end up concentrating even more power in the hands of a select few?
That's a question that we can ask about so many different technological advancements, right?
It's true.
And there's no easy answer.
No, there's not. The outcome really depends on the choices that we make today, both individually and collectively. The regulations that we put in place, the companies that we choose to support, even just the conversations that we have about responsible development.
Yeah.
All of these things are going to shape the future of fintech.
It's a good reminder that, technology itself isn't inherently good or bad.
Right.
It's a tool, and it's up to us to decide how we use it, what kind of future we want to build with it.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, I think we've given our listeners plenty to think about for today.
Yeah, plenty of food for thought to digest after this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Fintech as a Service. It's a world that's brimming with potential, and we can't wait to see where it takes us next.
Until next time.
Stay curious.